as soon as ban, the country will flourish.
Try to convince me that you don't look at porn.
None of these politicians have heard the word VPN.
Are you kidding me?
All right, today we got updates. We got news whether the adult pornography will be banned in the United States. We got Reddit stories. We got OnlyFans marketing, all coming up on today's episode.
So what's up with you? Do you have any updates?
I don't have any updates, no.
Yeah, so yesterday your mom came and she had, that day that she came over, she brought a jar of pickles and it was like the most delicious pickle stuff that I've ever had. So I told her that I loved it and she came over yesterday to celebrate Mother's Day with us and she brought stuff to make this magic pickle recipe.
Yep.
And so
secret family recipe.
Yeah, I made these pickles here. These here pickles. And then I also made this here cake for my son's birthday. Every year for my son's birthday, I have him pick out a cake that he wants, and he loves cheesecake. And this year he chose a turtle cheesecake.
That was definitely the best cake you've ever made.
It was.
Or probably the best cake anyone's made ever.
I'll post the link to the recipe I followed, I guess, in the description if you guys want to try it. It was phenomenal. All
right, so moving on to the news updates, we got some stories here. So I found this article on XBiz. This just kind of talks about, because there's like this big movement among, red pill conservatives, that whole crowd, about trying to ban porn and stuff, but you can read this part.
Okay, John McEntee, Senior Advisor to the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 and the former key figure in the Trump administration, is predicting an eventual full ban on pornography, claiming that once it is enacted, quote, this country will flourish.
Well, it's interesting to me that none of these politicians have heard the word VPN. As soon as you ban porn, everyone just uses a VPN. That's it. What impact, what do you think is going to happen? That's what's hilarious. How do you think you're actually going to prevent anything or change anything? What's funny to me is they make such a big deal out of making porn an enemy. How many direct cases of death can you link directly to porn? Because you can link a lot of direct deaths with all the pharmaceuticals being peddled out.
Let's think about the real issues at hand here. Okay, there's a homelessness problem, there's drug problems, there's wars going on, there's whatever, all hunger issues. And is any of that going to be solved by this?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's you got all the homelessness, all these things going on. People got to work 3 jobs to barely afford to live. But yeah, let's all put all our time and resources into porn, because that's going to instantly change the trajectory of the country.
And no one's saying that porn is making the fucking world go round either. But it's certainly not causing the problems that are actual problems.
But they're taking this pretty serious.
Oh, well, let's see. It's at the top of the list with banning TikTok. Wow.
Yeah.
What
that's
the fuck?
That's another thing. It's okay, you got all this murder. You got the pharmaceutical companies that are, with all the lobbying, with all these politicians that allow all these pharmaceutical companies to prescribe 80 fucking Xanax pills per month that is a guaranteed death sentence. That's perfectly fine. but no, we got to get rid of TikTok and porn. And that's the real problem. All right. So so for people that don't know Mel Rose, she's the girl that does
This is me destroying.
She's the girl that does the Sex Work CEO channel. She's got a blog and all kinds of stuff. But so this is a recent video that she made. So we'll kind of just go through this and see what she's saying about it.
Age verification policy in the US in less than 5 minutes. The 3 big pillars of age verification policy in the US right now are that we're going to keep kids safer, that we are going to make the internet a safer place, and that we are also going to be effective. This policy will be effective at doing those things. And here's why that is not true. We often run bills and legislation through the US to pass them under the guise that we are keeping kids safe. And here's why we are not keeping kids safe with this policy. When you just read the legislation, it sounds like ID verifying to see adult content makes sense. When I first heard that, it made sense to me too as an adult creator, but it's not accurate. When you go to an adult site like a Pornhub, for example, and you require an ID to access the content on that site, a couple of things are actually happening. One, when you ID verify with this third-party website, it has to verify your ID. And the way that it does that is by pinging the DMV, by pinging your employer, by pinging your bank or your lender to make sure your ID is a real and valid ID. While the third-party verification sites say that they will not keep your personally identifying information, it doesn't mean that the bank won't, doesn't mean that your lender won't. Why that's important is that you could then be...
Yeah, so basically there's certain states in the US where they've implemented these laws now to where anybody who's accessing any sort of adult site, you have to first verify your age with your driver's license and so on. She does have an interesting point here, is like when you use these age verification systems and you take a picture of your ID and you submit it, what it does is it accesses those records in the DMV records, all those records, to verify that information is true. So she kind of goes into like, oh, well, now all these companies know that you're watching porn kind of thing, and they might discriminate you because you're, accessing adult content, which I don't necessarily think that would be a thing. But all right, so let's see.
Discriminated against when you go to get a home loan, when you go to open a bank account, or when you go to get a job. We say these things as adult creators because they happen to us when we ID verify on these sites, to be able to upload them, to be able to make sure we are of age and consenting adults making this content, which we are good with. What we're not good with is the discrimination that follows, which consumers like you watching this are now going to feel the effect of. Not only is this policy not keeping kids safe, because when you go on these websites and they now require and ask for your ID, 95% of people aren't going to give it, which means they're going to then go to another website that doesn't require them to use an ID to access the content. Those websites, which are outside the US jurisdiction and US legislation, they will host terrible kinds of content. The kind that we all worry about, like child pornography or rape porn or any kind of unethically, unexcusable kind of adult content that is on the internet will be on those sites.
What do you think about that part?
I think that definitely increases the odds of...
Well, yeah, I mean, people...
Not that they don't have access to
the fact that they think this
now
is going to prevent anything is hilarious. People are going to get it no matter what, whether that's through a VPN or whether they just, like she's saying, access sites that are outside of these rules and jurisdiction. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that any adult site out of these jurisdictions just automatically has the most terrible porn of all kind.
They're not. But there's some more, just like, I feel like there's a heightened awareness here.
Well, it even increases the probability. It's like, okay, if somebody's trying to access an adult site and they can't get to it, what are they then going to do? They're going to start thinking about things that they wouldn't otherwise have considered. Oh, how can I get it? Well, now I can go on, if I want to look for it, now I'm going to go search ways. I need to get it on the dark web. Now they're on the dark web. Now they have exposure to all kinds of other things that they would have never even thought of if they weren't trying to access the porn through those means. So if you want to talk about some real fucked up shit, send everybody to the dark web, and then they're going to start seeing some real fucked up shit over there. So that's a great way to accomplish that goal.
Ew.
Sites, because they do not have to meet the same standard as our websites here in the US do. So what you're really doing is driving users from a safe site where ethically made porn is to not safe sites where unethically made porn is being hosted. And I don't think that is what we are aiming to do, but that is what we are doing with policy as short-sighted as this. So not only are we not keeping kids safe, we are driving people to very, very bad kinds of content. And also, this policy just won't be effective. We've already seen it go live in Texas, and the only thing that it does is drive everyone to use VPNs to circumvent it. So it's not even useful to put in place. If we want to keep kids off of adult websites, we already have tools to do those things. We have parental controls on internet browsers. We have device controls on mobile and cell phones. And we have, parenting, which is what I think a lot of here needs to be done is actual parenting, not just asking the government or regulation to come in and do that for you.
I think that's probably the biggest takeaway out of everything is like maybe actual parenting needs to happen to like educate your kids on what's good and what's bad, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, how to actually think about these things. You can't put bubble wrap over the world and, that's just going to make people want to access it more. But it's kind of like the same thing as like, all the kids that I grew up with, the ones that were in super Christian conservative families, wrapped in bubble wrap, never allowed to do anything. As soon as high school is over, what fucking happens? They're all the most maniac drunks that just like totally fucking went out of control because they were protected from all that stuff their whole life. And then the kids, like, all of us that were kind of just like partying and doing, we weren't in that sort of, we weren't like moderated by our parents in that way. We did our thing. We had, and then most of us grew out of it and moved on and whatever. But like, yeah, it's just, if you're trying to take all this stuff away or block access, it's just going to make people try to circumvent and get into much worse.
Now, I know that a lot of people watching this are going to think, I don't like those porn people, those adult industry people, the performers, the company owners, because they're just immoral and unethical and they have poor values. And even if you think the worst about the people in porn, the people with families and legitimate businesses doing legitimate work, even if you think the worst of us, we don't want kids on adult sites. They don't have credit cards to spend money. So even if you think the worst, just try thinking about it logically. And if you're wondering why I care so much about this and why it's so important that porn consumers understand this policy going through, is that it really affects and endangers them. The states that have already done this, that have already passed this policy, what you're seeing as a result is a ton of phishing scams pop up where people ID verify on the adult site, and then the camera keeps rolling and records them doing all sorts of things that you would normally do on a porn site. And then they sell that identifying ID information alongside the very identifying explicit video of someone who thought they were in the safety of their own home doing things that are totally normal on the internet, on the dark web, on malicious sites geared towards and made specifically for extorting people. So if you think this policy is to keep consumers safe, it is actually putting you in a whole lot of risk. And you know what I think is most interesting? We have no way of knowing if the legislators who are passing these policies aren't already being extorted in this exact way. So I guess I'm angry because I'm in a state that is about to pass this policy. I am here in the good old state of Tennessee, and I am in danger of this becoming my reality. And furthermore, Tennessee takes the approach of really aggressively criminalizing porn to the extent of they want you to upload your ID every hour on the porn site, as if you get younger while watching porn. Imagine that. And they also want to criminalize anyone who makes pornography for 15 years. Even though it's legal work, legal in the US, and a legitimate business. So I guess I'm a little upset because this directly impacts me. And not only that, this is a fight that I didn't know I would be having and has now become very important to my survival, not only of my adult business, but
yeah, so like that last article we were reading, I mean, that's what they're pushing for. They're pushing to basically criminalize this stuff to where anybody who produces or distributes this type of content is going to go to prison, basically. Like
in
we'll
certain
get to that,
states.
Yeah, we'll get to that level. I mean,
sounds like everyone's going to move to Vegas.
Well, yeah,
Nevada, where brothels are legal still. Like, okay, VPN, say, Vegas or whatever.
The other thing that's kind of ironic and funny is like with the whole, the whole right-wing side of the United States, it's all about like, your constitutional rights and freedom and, like all this whole thing. But then they're like, yeah, ban porn and ban TikTok and all this stuff. But then it's like, all right, well, why don't we ban guns? Then all of a sudden it's like, wait, whoa, what are you trying to turn this into a fucking communist country? Get the hell out of here. This is corrupt and we can't let them, take away our rights and all this stuff. But it's just so funny how they're so selective about these things that they choose, like what's their rights. And then, but if it's in alignment with their agenda, then it's like, oh yeah, ban it. And it's so funny.
I'm not convinced that the right wing red pills aren't watching porn just as aggressively as anyone else.
Of course they are. Like,
try to convince me that you don't fucking look at porn.
Yeah, of course they do. Of course, that's why the whole thing's such a joke. It's like the amount of hypocrisy is.
Yeah, it's insane.
Hilarious. Shout out to Mel Rose. Her channel's good. If you haven't checked her stuff out, I'll have a link for her channel. By the way, if you want to join us in the OnlyFans Level Up community, that is where I share all of my best secrets and strategies for OnlyFans creators, many of which are hitting really big numbers, as you may have seen from various guests on this podcast. But either way, it's a great place to be if you want to network or learn all of the best secrets and strategies to grow your OnlyFans account. You can find all of that information with the link down in the description below. But for now, back to the podcast. Oh yeah, so this was a Reddit thread that was kind of talking about this.
Okay, it says, why isn't porn banned? Is it just because it's too difficult to ban, or do people think it isn't harmful? I think it should be banned. It destroys men's dopamine receptors, leads to them being controlled by their desires, makes them objectify women, and worsens their relationships with women. What I find especially terrible is how easy it is for children to access porn.
Yeah, so this is like the typical kind of brainwashed outlook, I guess, because like every single person who has this argument says the same thing, but then like it ends there. If it's like, okay, show me exactly what you mean by that. Show me some case studies. Show me this or that, then it's fucking crickets. But it's like this is like their flagship pillar argument, but there's no level of depth beyond that.
You know what sounds really fucking similar to that? Food.
Well, that was
some people have like food addictions that they'll secretly hit up drive-through windows and spend their family's money when they shouldn't. And then it's destroying their health. It's destroying their dopamine receptors. It's destroying their bank accounts. It's destroying their relationships and their sex lives.
Well, that's another funny hypocrisy with the red pill community, is because the red pill community, it's all about like personal accountability and like being a man of value, like all this stuff. But if we imagine a scenario, like, let's say I started a company that was like, my company's all about like the finest whiskey and cigars. Like that was my company. And, I built this to a $15, $20 million company. And I'm like, yeah, I have this. And I go to the red pill crew and I'm like, yeah, I have this company and it's all about the finest whiskey and cigars. And they would just they'd be like, oh man, that's so cool. Like, what an awesome business. Like they would just think that's the coolest thing ever. But it's like the same thing. It's like, what happens if you have too much fucking whiskey? It's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for society. It's not going to be good for fucking anyone. What happens if you consume too much food, too much alcohol, too much smoking, cigars, whatever the case may be? But it's all about personal accountability. But when it comes to like porn, oh yeah, no, that's the OnlyFans are demons. They're destroying society. They're ruining people. They're infecting young minds. All of a sudden, personal accountability is out the window, and it's all the OnlyFans' fault, and we're victims, and they're terrorizing the world and leading to the destruction of society. My personal view is like nothing is bad in moderation. Like everything, like you can smoke once in a while, you can watch porn once in a while, you can eat, you can go have dessert once in a while. You can have a glass of wine once in a while, But if you do any of those things overboard, it's gonna be bad. So why is there this line in the sand that it's like, oh, well, when it's booze and alcohol, it's all about you having personal accountability. When it's about adult content, they're to blame and they're the problem and they're destroying society.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the Reddit stories of the week. I'll start with this one right here.
Okay, well, this one reminded me of a story more than this being hilarious.
All right, read it and then you tell your story.
So, yeah, today I fucked up by showing my dick to my wife's grandparents. So, my wife and I have a very lighthearted relationship, and I like to joke around all the time with her and make her laugh. I do dumb things all the time to make her roll her eyes and call me an idiot jokingly. I was outside barbecuing with headphones on, sipping a beer and listening to music. I look over and see my wife walking outside holding her phone up, obviously recording me or taking a picture. I instinctively pulled my shorts down and started doing the helicopter. She immediately looked mortified and turned around quickly and went back inside. I was very confused at her face, so I finished flipping burgers quickly and then went inside to find her with her head in her hands on the couch with her face red. I asked her what's wrong, and she told me she was video chatting with her grandparents, which she never did before. And she was showing them around our home and showing them me barbecuing. I have never met them before and only have seen pictures. To say that I'm embarrassed is an understatement. But this reminded me of, mine is not this bad of a story, but when I think this was obviously before we had like kind of told your parents that I was doing OnlyFans, and I had taken a picture of whatever sort of cookies or something, and I handed the phone to your mom.
Oh.
And your mom grabbed the phone and just, you know how boomers do, they'll just start touching things. And a fucking video of me popped up. Thank God I wasn't naked, but I was putting on a show in the video and dressed all like foxy and shit. And she's like, oh, what is this? And she turns it and you're there, your brother's there, my son's there. And I'm like, so I become.
Knew that you did it by then, I think, didn't they?
No, no one knew.
Oh.
I'm mortified. I'm red in the face. And I was like, hey, don't touch stuff. You know, like I got a little like, what are you doing?
Well, I have one with her too that was kind of recent.
Really?
Yeah. Remember we were sitting there and then she was here or we were there or something, but I'm obviously logged into all your Instagram accounts because I help post on them and do stuff. And so I get all the notifications from your Instagram accounts. And then my mom was there and I was showing her a video or something or whatever on my phone. And then some guy was like trying to sext you on Instagram or whatever. And he had the same name as your son. And he was saying all kinds of nasty shit. But he like went silent for a while. So like that's when I was like showing my mom something. But then of course, like as soon as I start showing her something on my phone, that guy starts texting you again. And she was like, oh. I was like, that's not her son.
Oh my God. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you were sitting right there.
Oh my God. That's funny.
Okay, the next one is.
Oh, this one's deleted.
Oh.
So this next one was deleted too, but I tracked it down. This one is, am I the asshole? My husband's single ex-wife wants to come on vacation with us. My husband and I have been talking to his son for a long time about taking him with us abroad as we travel every year. My husband and I have been together for 6 years, and I have been a normal part of our son's life. Now that our son has been expressing that he wants to go with us abroad, my husband's single ex-wife is suggesting she go with us to take our son abroad. For a little backstory, every time my husband and I tell her we're going to take our son to a movie, event, or some type of show, she buys tickets for the same event a week or two before we take him so that she can take him first. She also made it incredibly hard for me to meet my son, even after a year of my husband and I dating, but introduces her boyfriends to our son within weeks of dating. Now that we want to take our son traveling with us to show him what is out there, she is insisting she must come too. I married my husband and my son. I did not marry his ex-wife. Now my husband is saying I'm childish for not wanting to take his single ex-wife on vacation with us to stay in the same Verbo as us. If it were truly about giving our son the best life we all could, the ex-wife would stay home and trust us to take care of our son. Never in any of our many discussions about traveling with our son has my husband brought up that we should bring his ex-wife. And now all of a sudden, I'm the asshole and childish for not wanting to play Full House with her since she can't handle not being the first to give an experience to our child. So I obviously have a child. My son has a dad. That's not you. And he's considered part of our family, to me, to you also. Like, we're all friendly. I've always been friends with his dad, my son's dad. So we've never had this like tick for tack bullshit, him and I. We've never had competition like, I want to take you for this or that first. So we are not in this situation at all.
Yeah, we're probably not the best ones to ask because I highly doubt most people are like that.
So let's see what the comments say on this one.
This one says, are you actually the third wheel in the throuple? Because it kind of sounds like it. Going to a movie, tell her which theater and what time, then go to another theater. Going to a museum, then go to an aquarium. She'll get the idea. Sounds like she wants to be present in all his firsts, and it's lazy and piggybacking on your work. It also doesn't sound like it works both ways. Does she invite you both, whether she takes him out for dinner or to the amusement park? I guess I'd lay down the law to the hubs. You three are a family unit. She and your son are another family unit. She can figure out and plan her own life events with him, and you do yours. Pretty sure this would be my hill to die on. If he wants to go on vacation with his ex and his kid, he can get back with her. I would go find someone that would fully love and respect me.
Yeah, if you guys can't come to some sort of a happy place where you can be a family unit together, like if we lived in the same general area as my son's dad, I'm sure we would have done stuff like this when he was growing up. Come camping. I would invite him to everything. But if you can't, then like I said, there has to be a lot of trust and there has to be a lot of communication.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, if he lived here and he doesn't really have like money to do stuff, but we do, so we're like the ones doing the event, and then it's like, okay, then like, yeah, that's the only chance he's gonna have to do that stuff because he wouldn't be able to do it by himself.
I don't know. This is a hard one.
All right, so moving on to OnlyFans marketing. So this was just one that nobody's doing this right now, and I think if somebody does do it, it could be really cool. So I'm going to bring up a few things on the screen, and they're probably not going to make sense right off the bat. So bear with me, and I'll break it all down. All right, so first I'm going to bring this one on the screen right here. This is a TikTok account, and all it does is basically use AI to create country songs. And then a lot of these things just go super viral. So they're basically just creating country songs with AI and then creating little background footage with AI. And that's it. And then posting it on TikTok. And these are getting, some of them are getting hundreds of thousands of views. Most of them are getting tens of thousands. But I'm going to explain why this is relevant to OnlyFans in just a second. But let me just play one of these real quick.
I got beer in my boots, dirt on my truck, corn on my mind, and a gun up my butt. It's a small...
Okay, so they're basically just creating this little country song. And so last week on the podcast, we were kind of talking about figuring out how to sort of find these ingredients, because like with OnlyFans, everybody's just trying to look cute, but most of the time it's not just about looking cute, it's about looking cute plus something else. And so I'm going to kind of show you a mixture of ingredients right here. The point of this one was to show you, okay, ingredient number one is this sort of AI country trend that's going on right now. And so if I wanted to make one of these country songs, I could come to this website right here. This is called udio.com. Let me just sign in because I already made a couple of these. It takes like a couple seconds. Like it's super easy. I'll just go to my creations and play a couple of these ones. So I just put in the prompt, and the prompt says a country song about a girl who grew up in a farm and her dream was to inherit the family tractor. Okay, so that's the prompt that I put into this AI. And here's the song that it made based on that.
She's got dirt beneath her nails
from fields waving with pride.
Her heart's set on the green machine where her dreams and land collide. And Daddy's tractor, it's her dream.
So you could obviously do like way better ones than this, but like it's so easy to make this like AI music now. And so what you could potentially do is you could just come into here and you could start generating all of these country songs and doing a similar thing like what this account is doing, and just being like asking AI to make a hit country song. And then it's just clips of you in the background doing like country shit, like driving a tractor, or chopping some wood, or baling some hay, or drinking beer, or whatever country people do. And man, what an easy way to make a ton of content that like, so you're taking the ingredient of this viral country AI, that's ingredient number one. Ingredient number two is the country girl niche, which is a super popular OnlyFans niche. A lot of the, country girl accounts do really well. And then if you take like another one of these ingredients, so if we look at this account, for example, this is a girl, I actually just featured this girl in the newsletter recently, which by the way, if you guys haven't signed up for the free newsletter, I'll have a link for that in the description. But the newsletter is where I kind of, all kinds of, it's kind of like a summarized version of the podcast. And I also put in stuff that like doesn't really fit with the podcast, but there's, has all kinds of interesting stuff. So if you're not a part of the newsletter, definitely jump on there. So I'll have the link for that down below. But basically I featured this girl in the newsletter recently, and all she does is like, if you remember that guy that was going viral all the time, he's just like a dude that chops wood, and he's like good looking, and he just goes super viral just chopping wood. Well, this girl kind of does the same thing, and she's just killing it, just sitting around chopping wood with an axe, and people just love watching her do this. So if you take this kind of AI country thing as ingredient number one, you take the country girl niche as ingredient number two, and then you take this wood chopping content formula as ingredient number three, and you put those things together, you're probably going to have a pretty good shot at going viral with that type of content. What do you think about that?
I think it's cute.
Yeah, it's like super easy to do. I would definitely do it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Get out there, get creative with your stuff, and see how it goes.